Hi, so today I'm going to talk to you about IBM. And for many of you that know me, you will think that IBM is right up my street. It's exactly the kind of company that I would invest in. We're talking about a company that is the grandfather of technology companies. This is a company that has always been striving to be the next big thing. It's constantly evolving. It's a technology company that has constantly found the right technology and driven things forward. And when you look at its recent acquisitions, it's using its profits from its business to reinvest, to buy new businesses, and to really try and innovate going forward to drive into the cloud, and that's where it's heading. It's really pushing its way into the cloud, into that infrastructure for the cloud, and to really drive the business in that direction, which makes IBM exactly the kind of company that I would normally invest in. And when you look at its balance sheet, you see obviously its old business revenues declining, but its new business is rapidly expanding. The cloud business, if you look at the revenue from that, it's constantly growing. And if you look at its margins, it's improving in its margins. It's making every kind of element of its business more and more profitable on paper. And that's kind of like part of my caveat here. So let's go back over the things that I've just said, and work out exactly where IBM is. Now, the first thing I said was that it's the grandfather of all technology companies, which in many respects is a good thing. But the issue with grandparents is that they die. And as much as IBM has a huge wealth of history and experience in the technology sector, technology is about youth. And IBM just doesn't seem to have that anymore. It seems like it's kind of gone over that hump. And when you look at the books of IBM and you look at the way that the company's moving forward, you look at the fact that obviously its competitors are Amazon, Google, Microsoft, and they really are the three big main competitors that are going to push against the boundaries of this technology. Now, IBM, when you look at the acquisitions it's made, it started to make these acquisitions of things like Red Hat. Now, in normal circumstances, if Microsoft, Amazon, or Google had been the one that had made this acquisition and had bought Red Hat, then that would have been a real great thing as far as I'm concerned. The issue that I have with IBM buying this company and the other companies that it's bought is acquisitions like this normally work very well when the company that is absorbing them, that is buying them, is a fast moving, innovative company that is really kind of pushing forward. And the issue that I have with IBM doing this is that it's already lagging behind its competitors. And when a company that's lagging behind starts making acquisitions to catch up, the often the issue with that is that it kind of makes these acquisitions, but then it doesn't really have the right internal infrastructure to make those acquisitions work. So what you end up having is these really great innovative companies are taken over, they get absorbed into the infrastructure, and then basically they kind of wither and die. Is maybe the only way to describe it, because of the fact that there just doesn't have that kind of environment for these businesses to thrive. Now, when you look at IBM, its R&D budget is definitely a lot lower than its main competitors, which obviously is a concern in itself. Then you have the fact that their profit margins, despite this, seem to be lower than their competitors as well. Then you have a look at the fact that IBM has huge amounts of debt. Then you have the issue that when you combine the platforms and you compare them with, so you've got your IBM cloud services that they offer, and you compare it with its competitors, they're not market leading, they're not the best ones. They're not bad, but they're not great. They're not like the market leader. Now, obviously, they're trying to push forward with their hybrid system of having, part out into the cloud and part on the local systems as well, which obviously a lot of companies do need. It's a huge amount of demand for that services, but I just don't know whether IBM is really going to be the company that's going to take the lion's share of that market. It just doesn't seem to be sitting there right with me. So when I'm looking at IBM and I'm then looking at its management structure, I'm seeing a very old management structure as well. I'm not seeing a young, hip technology company. I'm seeing an old company that's not really keeping up when I'm looking at its management structure and when I'm looking at its management team. The CEO, obviously, he's come over from Microsoft, so there's a lot of potential for him in that regard. But I'm not really getting the right vibe from him that he's really going to push the company forward in the same way that Microsoft, Google, and Amazon are being pushed forwards. So, yeah, there we go. There we have it. So we have a management structure that I'm not too sure on, a huge amount of debt, a software and technology direction that doesn't really seem to be working fast enough and doesn't really seem to be pushing the company forward in the right way. We have a structural company that is aging. So that's my thoughts on IBM. That's the reason why I actually have a short position on IBM. Although I don't necessarily think the company is going to go bust in the next year or so, I'm not sure if it's going to exist in 5 to 10 years. So that's why I'm short it. I definitely don't think its current valuation is sustainable, but only time will tell. I think its current revenue is going to continue to decline, and that's even including growth in revenue from cloud services, because I think although that's going to continue to climb, I don't think it's going to climb at the rate that the rest of the business is going to decline. So I don't think they're going to kind of marry up. And I think the cloud services are then going to hit a point where they stop increasing, and they'll start to decrease as well. Because, like I say, I just see it that people are going to start then switching over. People are moving out to the cloud, and they've been using IBM for years. But I think they're going to get to the stage where they suddenly realise that actually the Amazon and the Microsoft and the Google platforms that integrate with their existing systems are actually going to be a more suitable option for them. So that's my thoughts. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you in my next video.